Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the final day of the 2024 Canadian Scrabble Classic. Matt Canick joined by Josh Sokol.
So let's take a look at the players that are ready to face each other once again. This is a rematch. Matthew Tunnicliffe in first place, 9-2, versus Matthew O'Connor, second place, 8-3.
Yeah, let's cut to over the board and go ahead and get these gents underway. And we are underway. Matthew Tunnicliffe to play first on that famous left side that's been drawing all the goodies all tournament. And he's going to have EEELNSS as his opening rack. This feels awkward to me. There's no
Yeah.
bingos here that I'm aware of. And beyond that, geez, Josh, how do you even approach this?
Yeah, this is probably going to take him a while unless he just decides, whatever, I'm just going to play lens and keep ES, basically an extremely transparent play. I don't know if he's going to be able to avoid either making a very small exchange and signaling that he has very strong tiles, or just showing O'Connor that he has an S. With the play that he's making. Because if he plays an S for 10, 12 points, almost certainly Matthew O'Connor is going to know that he has a second one. So that's going to be very interesting to see what he chooses to do here.
This is bonkers. I don't even like if you exchange, what do you exchange? This is a turn that's far too complex for 9:30 in the morning, and I think Matthew's face kind of indicates the same thing for him. This is killer.
Yeah, I mean, he's considering exchanging the E. This is something you do want to consider here. If you exchange one tile, how often are you going to hit? So he can look at every single tile from A to Z to see how often he is drawing into a bingo. Now he's looking at exchanging EL to keep EENSS, which also looks like a very strong option. But yeah, I don't
I
know.
think
I
he'd
think
play EL, right? You think he'd play EL instead of exchange him?
no. So this is a very interesting concept. Playing two tiles for 4 points at the start of a game seems like better than exchanging because you're getting some points, but it actually leads to more of a constricted board on the second move, which reduces your chances of drawing into that early bingo. So most of the time, it's probably not worth doing, but we see Tunnicliffe is doing it anyway. It also provides the opponent with two floating tiles to play through if they had 7 letters looking for an E or an L for an 8-letter word. So I think this is maybe a slight inaccuracy over exchanging. Matthew O'Connor also, I've talked to him about this sort of concept before, so I think he said something like, that can't be the right player, or something like that. He probably said something snarky there. But yeah, over to O'Connor with a very awkward rack himself.
Yeah, I agree with you on most points. I generally exchange if I'm instead going to play two one pointers. Like I won't open with OI or AI. I'd rather exchange those, but I don't like how easy it is to stack on top of two vowels. In this case, in the case of EL, I think I'm slightly more inclined to actually play them and take the points, especially holding on to two S's. If I draw bingo, I'll be able to hook whatever in all likelihood. So EL, I'd probably play. But two vowels, I agree, generally it's best to exchange those instead of play opening AI for four or something. In any case, Matthew O'Connor now to respond, facing a huge deficit of 4-0. Just had to work that in. That's fun. I
Nice.
think LOX and ELL in all likelihood what he wants to play here, but maybe he's thinking hard about WOX beneath EL instead, just to kind of constrict the board a little bit more. I'm not seeing any great plays that like close everything off, and EL has too many front and back hooks, so and anything else you see, would you consider just playing WELL around it, or you just locks and move
No,
on?
it's definitely between locks and walks, and this is very interesting. Like, I will mention that there is no solid theory in Scrabble about the opening move here of do you play for four or do you exchange? But what's really interesting is how is somebody going to respond? So Walks is way more of a defensive response. Excuse me, it's early. By Matt O'Connor, but he's sacrificing a good number of points over playing Locks. So it could be that a play like EL might force Matthew O'Connor to overreact and try to play a little bit too defensively. As we see here, if he had played Locks, I think he would be in pretty good shape and he would have more points, but he's drawn into a great bingo rack. So who's to blame him for this play?
Yeah, wow. Who would have thought Matthew would get a bingo before the other Matthew? Who would have thought O'Connor would get a bingo before Tunnicliffe? But that blank, and then just his letters got really good as Tunnicliffe found more vowels after his opening move. So once again, Matthew Tunnicliffe with what is a rather challenging turn. EE and EEW jumps out. EE and EWE is a worse version of that. OE and EEW may be another option, as well as NEELE through the EL, making EX. I kind of like that last option, score some points, but it's 14 as opposed to EE or OE, which are 9. Josh, how do you approach this turn?
I'm telling you, Matt, I would not have gotten myself into this position. I mean, this is pretty bad case scenario. I obviously Matthew Tunnicliffe doesn't know what's about to strike him here, but this is exactly why a play like EL might not be correct. Just allowing an overlap like this, even if Matthew Tunnicliffe had a bingo on his rack, look where it would play. It would play making EEW, SEW, or EWE, opening a bunch of floating tiles, not hitting any multipliers, and just giving Matt O'Connor the world. So this is again why I think that was an inaccurate opening play. But also, I mean, drawing OE to EENSS isn't great, and the options are just terrible here. I agree with your analysis. I would like to score a little bit more with NEELE, but it looks like Tunnicliffe is pretty committed to the cause of fishy fishy, going as far as possible towards drawing into that opening or quick bingo.
Yeah, and then he's got the other big decision to make. Oh my goodness, he's playing down on the bottom. It's not what I thought he would do. Just asking Matthew to score a lot of points. That's maybe he's trying to get a tell right now because he hasn't hit his clock. But all right, OE on the bottom as opposed to the top is the decision from Matthew Tunnicliffe. It's going to lead to a more open board and help his bingos come down more often, but I'd be very scared of the huge scoring spot that I just opened up. In any case, we've seen EL for 4 and then OE for 8 as Matthew Tunnicliffe kind of slogs through the first few turns, consequences of that awkward opening rack that he pulled. And Matthew O'Connor now to bingo out of an excellent rack. He's got a gazillion different options. Just kind of choose your favorite, highest scoring available bingos. Put his S behind EWE, or put his blank as an S behind EWE and score 72. Nothing crazy, fancy, or flashy here for him.
Yeah, it looks like just longies or legions here. Maybe some other word is available as well there. But yeah, very, very weird, very weird opening. I'm really glad we're seeing this. The OE play basically saying if you have a 4-point tile, I'm giving you 30 points. But the J, I guess, the most worrisome tile to punish the play of OE. But if JOE came down, SJOE would be a potential response from Tunnicliffe. So I'm sure he's thought about that a little bit. I'm sure he's not happy with this position either, but hopefully we'll see a little bit of an exchange of bingos here. I think Tunnicliffe is going to get a tile that he can use after either legions or longies. Am I mistaken?
The L is going to help him bingo. C lines, SEALINES. So Eloins, Lignos, Longies, Legions all give the L back. Matthew Tunnicliffe will finally get a bingo down, assuming Matthew O'Connor does what we think he's going to do. But maybe he doesn't take the highest scoring bingo here. Maybe instead he's looking to play vertically front hooking OE in some way, because he knows the range that Matthew Tunnicliffe is in. We might see something like LENTIGO and GOE. That is a word that does not take an S. This actually came up at club last week, and I didn't notice my opponent hooked an S on it because I was being told we have to shelter in place because somebody was making a scene and getting arrested at the voting station across the community center. So, God bless America. In any case, maybe Lentigo. Don't open up a back hook. That actually looks really solid right here. What do you think about that, Josh? Lentigo for
Yeah,
71.
really like that idea. It makes it a little bit harder for Tunnicliffe to respond with the bingo, not opening as many playthrough tiles. And these are positions that Matthew O'Connor loves to think about. We keep saying that he's a speedy demon player. He's not a demon. He's a great guy, but he loves to think about positions like these where he can try to infer what his opponent is holding on to and make very sharp decisions, such as this one, trying to provide as little as possible in response. Maybe Lentigo's slightly better, but at least this one doesn't open a potential double-double, which Lentigo would have done with the L in second position. So is this going to... No, easiness is available at least.
Lignos takes a back S, so I'm very confused by the decision from Matthew O'Connor there. I would do anything I can to avoid giving the S up. The S is in Tunnicliffe's range so often. I don't want to let him bingo down there. Maybe Matthew O'Connor thinks this word does not take an S, but if you know this takes an S and you've got an embarrassment of riches, this is a bad play.
This would be huge. I mean, I think Tunnicliffe, he doesn't have a 7-letter word. I think he's going to play easiness. And that might just, I don't know, then 2 S's are gone. Matthew O'Connor's just drawn another S. It's going to be very interesting to see if Matthew O'Connor hooks an S onto Lignos. Because, yeah, it does look like a lot of adjectives, OSE, which are different forms of OUS, which do not take S's because they're adjectives. So it could very well be that O'Connor has made a word knowledge mistake here, but we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and find out because that hook has not been used and might not be used for a couple turns.
One of my favorite things about both of these players is they do have some deficits in word knowledge in certain places. They've definitely put a lot of time in. They know a lot of words, don't discount them at any means, but they're human in a way that some other top players are not. And that creates an extra level of dimension that I think is so fun to watch. But at the same time, it creates plays like Lignos, where it's like, what on earth? And I bet Matt Tunnicliffe knows Lignos takes an S and has to be shaking his head there. Like, I can't believe I wasn't able to burn you. I had 2 S's, so any playable 7 I draw goes down there no matter what. And, he's got to be a little bit annoyed that he wasn't able to burn him. But in any case, easiness comes down for 59. Matthew O'Connor's found the third blank and play moves on. Options here for Matthew: Rump and PE looks to be a good play. But you could actually slide it over 1 square and make Rumpo in the same spot. The column's only 5. That's 30. That's Matthew's best play here. And he's missed it.
That's true. Yeah, a little bit of a miss there, just shifting that over. We did see some interesting foregoing or missing of 5-letter words that are valid in CSW. Once again, it could very well be that Matthew O'Connor has not learned the word rumpo, given that many North American players have only recently fully switched over to the CSW International Lexicon, and there are so many more words to learn. I think there's around 300,000 versus 200,000 in the North American lexicon. So either a miss here or just, not knowing or not being sure of a word. But this is hopefully not going to burn Matt O'Connor too hard.
And he has drawn into a bingo that will play with Lignoses, so we will get to see if he knows this hook. But we'll shift back over to Matthew Tunnicliffe, who's drawn a rack that is rather frustrating. These are rough, but he also drew the final S. So both players now with an S on their rack. There's a little bit of a psychological component. If you're Tunnicliffe, you think, why would Matthew O'Connor play Lignos there unless it doesn't take an S? So we've just got to see if he knows it. Lignos is actually part of a set, Lignosis and Loginus. So perhaps he knows it, perhaps he doesn't. I bet he does, but we're definitely going to see who's able to capitalize on this hook. He can play Eloges, Eloges, for 35 right now with Lignoses. He can play Geo on top of Rump with 3 overlaps for 16, holding ELST, or he can play Eloge, extending the EL on the star for 16, also holding ELST. So, Josh, are you scoring 35 at the bottom and cashing the S, or are you trying to be sneaky and hold it and play off just GEO somewhere?
I'm looking at Matthew O'Connor's lips moving. I wonder if he's just murmuring to himself. I agree with you. I think Matthew Tunnicliffe for sure knows Lignoses, and if he thinks that Matt O'Connor does not know Lignoses because he played Lignos in that spot, I think he's very likely to want to just use the hook at the right moment and not play Eloges here for the points. Something like Geo is a very hard play to spot. It's like overlapping in a very weird way, not using the triple, which is what you are drawn to do in this position. I'm very curious to see what Matthew Tunnicliffe decides to do here. He might go a little bit more aggressive, even opening the board, or he might just try to play a little bit longer and play through the R. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting game so far. Lots of psychology going on, I think. And then Matthew O'Connor, what is he going to do? Is he going to, if he has the possibility, play Sporan and Lignoses? Sporan is somewhat of a hard word to spot. You also need to have studied it. Once again, Matthew O'Connor among the players at the top who do not study words religiously. Matthew Tunnicliffe is the opposite. He likes to know the words. Matthew O'Connor likes to play around with the board. So very interesting. We'll see if Sporan comes down. If it comes down with ON, if it comes down with Lignoses, this is a key moment in this game.
Yeah, wow. So Ogler was a play I wanted to mention as well, thanks to the Deadly Gamesman for mentioning in chat, and I bumped it into my Quackle. It jumped to near the top of the sim, ended up settling at second for me. But yeah, if you're keeping EST, this is a good idea. You want to open an additional bingo line for yourself. Get this board as open as possible. What you don't want to do is draw 3 eyes, like Matthew Tunnicliffe just did. Very tilt-inducing game so far on his end. And we'll see where Sporan comes down. It already played with EWES, and now it plays with ON. So Matthew O'Connor has 2 spots to score either 74 or 75. But yeah, he doesn't know that Lignos takes an S. Man, he dodged a huge bullet. That was a big blunder making that play. You can't do that. If there's any realm of possibility that Lignos takes an S, you can't play that. You have 35 other playable bingos out of that rack. That is a really bizarre decision to play that. Must have been a mistake. You must be confident that it doesn't. But Sporan coming down, and that's going to pull Matthew O'Connor ahead 207 to 89. Let me get the scores updated there. And then Tunnicliffe again, 3 eyes on his draw into EST, in addition to that M that he's pulled.
Yeah, if I'm Tunnicliffe, I am very, very tilted here. He must know for a fact now that Matthew O'Connor does not know Lignos takes an S, and he's going to have to work his brain super hard to try and make sure that that S hook is protected. He's down over 100 points. He needs that hook for himself. He has the last S, and he knows that Matthew O'Connor is not willing to play the S hook himself. But what's very interesting is because of the challenge rule, 5-point challenge, it's not going to cost Matthew O'Connor so much in many cases that Lignosis is a word. It's only going to cost him 5 points in many positions. But it could be that strategically Lignosis becomes of utmost importance to block. importancy to block, and O'Connor fails to do so. This is going to be very, very interesting. We might see many, many turns, depending on what Matthew is able to draw. Tunnicliffe, we might see many turns of him trying to draw something with Lignosis.
Yeah, man, this is frustrating from Matthew Tunnicliffe's perspective. And if you could just score 25 right now and hold on to the S, you'd feel like, okay, I'm keeping myself in range. I'm going to surprise him with a 90 pointer at the bottom of this board, get an extra 5 points, and we'll keep going. But this rack sucks. This rack sucks so much. ELEMI is a way to score points, extending the EL, but that holds IIST. Otherwise, what are you doing? MITI? Oh, I don't know. There's MITIS is a word, but you can't do that. I don't know. Josh, what do you see here? What do you think?
Yeah, this is pretty terrible. We might see just like XI for 11. I don't know if that hits that often. You want to cover that triple maybe in the top left, although it's hard to underlap the P. And he's playing Inti,
Oh
which is such
no!
a huge sacrifice. He's just given up on Lignos as being a thing. Maybe both players now think maybe it doesn't take an S. It's very possible the double blindness has stricken both of these players. When a top expert player does not hook an S onto a word you think takes an S, you start having nightmares. Am I going crazy? Am I just wrong? It's a very bizarre situation here, and I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to see that S hook this game after Inti.
I mean, Tunnicliffe can still cash 40 or so there, but at this point, you're looking to use that S to bingo instead. Inti, a strange play. I think I preferred time in the top left corner, making STPIOM and RE. That sets up the front Stime hook. Inti knocks out the Lignosis hook. So I think you're right. I think Matthew Tunnicliffe maybe didn't see it or maybe doesn't know it, but if you know Lignosis is good, given the rest of the context in this game, you can't play Inti there, no matter how much equity it may be. And on the last turn, Matthew O'Connor, he dropped JA very quickly, but there's an awesome 6 in that rack of Bajada, Bajada, which I think was probably a smarter play for him as well. But alas, Ja comes down, and then Mercies, the merciful bingo finally from the tile bag for Matthew Tunnicliffe, is going to bring him closer into this game. Mercies is going to be 76 and bring Matthew Tunnicliffe to within 49 points.
Yeah, this has gotten super, super interesting. And I mean, Matt O'Connor probably thinks that there's really very limited risk left on this board, and he's probably going to play something like Flab or Fab, overlapping the M and the E of Mercies. But what's interesting, we see the Z come out. If Matthew Tunnicliffe draws the second blank, we might see a huge possibility with Lignosis once again if that spot is never covered. But right now, he's going to have to deal with some really awkward letters once Matthew O'Connor pretty clearly blocks the was spot that, yeah, Flab is about to block. This is really, really bad for Matthew Tunnicliffe. Oh, he still has a spot for was.
Yeah, Collins has feel bad, FEELBAD. That played through the E. Sorry, I'm just geeking out about that word. That's awesome. But okay, so Flab, I think a very standard move for Matthew O'Connor. After a number of very bizarre moves, I think we're finally settling in, finding our rhythm, and making some more pedestrian plays. WUZ, as Josh said, plays alongside Mercies, making a new. Oh God, a WUZ. I'll be getting the.
Do you have maple syrup, Matt? Do you have any maple syrup?
No, I did,
Because
but
I felt like
yeah.
I don't know. You suffered enough. We've been taking shots of hot sauce every time we say Z instead of Z. But I feel like if you had maple syrup, that'd be a better thing to consume today as the final day. Maybe we could give Matt a break. Maybe give his gut a break.
Only pain, yeah. No break. I deserve this for myself. There's another kind of shot I could be taking, but we don't need that. Okay. Anyway, 222 for Matthew Tunnicliffe, 267 for Matthew O'Connor. And Matthew O'Connor now drawing into an awkward rack, Aadeiit. This one is going to be weird for him to fight his way through. You got to play off vowels, but most of the ways you can play those vowels also open the board up, which is not what you're looking to do with this slim lead. I think maybe AINE through the N in Lignos. It's tough to spot, but 15 points doesn't open anything up. That might be a reasonable option for him here, as opposed to doing something reckless like Idea and XI. So he won't be scoring very well this turn. And on the other side, Matthew Tunnicliffe has found the second blank. This one might have some drama, folks.
Yeah, I am so happy to see that blank. Just what Matthew Tunnicliffe needed to stay in this game, as well as this poor draw from Matthew O'Connor. He will spot plays like AINE quite quickly. I think he's just considering whether or not he wants to score a little bit more, a little bit more aggressive here. He is up 45 points, so this is sort of a situation where I think you want to play a lot more conservatively. So I assume that what he's just thinking about is it worth keeping the E on this rack? Because E's, they're pretty good, they're pretty useful, and they're starting to get a bit scarce. So yeah, interesting to see what he comes up with here. As once again, he is lower on the clock than Matthew Tunnicliffe for the second game in a row. It's very bizarre to see this.
Is that right? I show Matthew Tunnicliffe at 10 and Matthew O'Connor at 12.
Oh, sorry, I was reading that at 16. Okay.
Yeah,
No, this is
we've
normal.
got some interface stuff on our end, making it harder to see both the tiles and the scores. So bear with us, folks. Speaking of bear with us, bear with me as I give the plug one more time. This is the finals of the Canadian Scrabble Classic, brought to you by Let's Play Scrabble. The final 4 rounds here as Matthew comes down with AINE. If you haven't already, please consider liking this video. I expect big crowds today with our special guest, and I'd like to bump this as far up the algorithm as we can. So every like we get on the video helps us do that. We're already at 122 viewers, which is awesome. Let's get as high as we can. And our special guest, if you missed in the chat, is going to be Will Anderson, jumping into the commentary booth for the last 2 rounds today. So don't forget to like this video. And while you're at it, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the Let's Play Scrabble channel if you like watching Scrabble on the internet. Lots more Scrabble to come. All right. In any case, AINE is indeed the play we saw from Matthew O'Connor. Matthew Tunnicliffe with that blank, looking to do some damage. No playable bingos for him. TIDDY plays beneath easiness, making ST and SI for 30. NUDDY plays down through the U in rump for 22. And then there are smaller plays like DYE and aped and AY in the bottom left corner. Josh, are you looking to keep your rack as balanced as possible here? Are you looking to try to open up the board? Do you just play TIDDY for 30? There's a lot to think about here. What would you do?
Yeah, I think TIDDY is the play here. If we get the scores updated, Tunnicliffe is down by 60 here. So you still need to score some points. But he is just playing TYND. So now this S hook on Lignosis completely gone. That is such a bizarre thing. Both players seemingly not aware, or at some points aware, and then chickening out of the S hook on Lignosis in a variety of different ways. I like this play TYND because it keeps an eye with vowels getting a bit scarce, although that's a lot of vowels.
Yeah, what would you say about vowels? Okay. Anyway, yeah, he's found a bunch of vowels, but you can be patient in this situation. I don't know that the C in Mercies is going to get obstructed without a huge sacrifice for Matthew O'Connor. So if you don't bingo this turn, you have the opportunity to open a line, playing something like XI and IO, and try to hit one next turn. I'm not in a rush here. There's not much left to do on this board. So as long as I've got the blank and I can get the bingo at some point, I'm feeling all right. I've just got to make sure Matthew O'Connor doesn't score in the process. How does Matthew O'Connor score this turn? This is a tough one. Highest equity move is something we should not see. That's Urtica, Urtica, and XU for 27. Sometimes Quackle's static plays make you laugh because it's like, given the context, given who Matthew O'Connor is as a player with his defensive tendencies, that's never going to happen. But if that doesn't happen, there's not many ways to keep this board tight and not give back much to your opponent. I think the one sneaky play that does all of that and scores well is Goetic, Goetic. But that's degree of difficulty 9 or 10 out of 10. That's tough to spot. Josh, what are you thinking here?
This is very difficult. Goetic, although does score pretty well, that that C is going right on top of a double word score, and so play with CH. Both H's being out will easily reopen the board. I think we might see something like Uric, which is okay. That's exactly what's happening here. Just scoring some points, keeping decently. I don't know how many vowels Matthew O'Connor is going to draw for the rest of this game, but now Tunnicliffe has two clear targets: that C in Uric, that C in Mercies. He's going to be looking to find a bingo through one of those C's in the next couple of moves. So this is going to be very dicey.
Dicey indeed. What I'm worried about if I'm Matthew Tunnicliffe is there are two unseen V's, and Matthew O'Connor could use one of them to just absolutely slam this board shut over the next few turns. So while I see two different C's, it's in the realm of possibilities that both go away, and Matthew O'Connor, the type of player who would make a big sacrifice to make them go away. But I can't be paranoid. I can't be thinking about all that. The other big concern I have is we've only got 8 vowels left already in that pool. So there's a chance that Matthew's in trouble. And if he's not in trouble yet, there's a chance that one of us is in trouble over the next few turns. So if I am Matthew Tunnicliffe, I'm probably just looking to play 2 vowels. I think a play like IO in the bottom left corner makes a ton of sense. I don't know that I need to open the board at this point, but I would be very sad if a V comes down in exactly the right square and just absolutely crushes me.
But here's the deal. Okay, there are lots of bad tiles to come. Lots of consonants, the Q, 2 V's, way too many T's, but Matthew O'Connor has 2 of those. The problem with this board, if you're in the lead, which Matthew O'Connor is that there's many places where a bingo may or may not come down. The W in was, the C in Mercies, the C or the I in Uric, the I in Inti. You cannot block all of those at once. All you can do is try over multiple moves to get rid of those threats, or just score your way to victory, which is, I think, what Matthew O'Connor has decided to do with the play of Uric. He did have a nice lead. He still has a decent lead. He has drawn an H to score with. So I think this game is going to get very, very close. I don't think Matthew O'Connor can stop all of the threats. I think he needs to just try and score his way to victory.
Yeah, Matthew Tunnicliffe with a very good pull after the IO play we expected, but Matthew O'Connor with a high scoring opportunity at the bottom. HOT or HOUT, both playing down here. Matthew O'Connor opting for HOT, I think, given the unseen Q and the lack of vowels in general, this is the one I prefer as well. You can't get in trouble. So he's going to play hot and sprint away from the table, doing, I guess, some punishment laps around the track. Maybe he showed up late this morning. Just kidding.
Yeah,
That's all
so
a joke.
just so everyone's aware, there's nothing unbecoming about what just happened. Matthew O'Connor probably just had to use, let's say, the washroom, because we're in Canada, and you're allowed to do that once you've made your play, so that you aren't drawing letters. You don't know what you have. You have way less of a chance of being able to look up words while you're away from the table. So this is perfect etiquette here as we see Radicate come down. Actually, what'll be interesting to see is if Matthew Tunnicliffe, okay, he actually stops the clock. He doesn't have to do that. This is a good sportsmanship, but also it might not be good sportsmanship because that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to start your opponent's clock, even if they need to go. Um, and yeah, because Matthew Tunnicliffe is doing this, it's sort of like collusion, right, Matt? Because you're basically doing
Yeah.
something someone else wouldn't be doing. So you're giving your opponent an unfair advantage. Anyways, we won't talk about this too much, but I guess yeah, this is a very
Collusion?
nice Canadian
No,
thing.
I don't want to call this collusion, but the director in me is screaming. I would hate if any player did this in my tournament, especially on the last day. We got to get play going. We got to get folks home. They've got planes to catch, trains to catch. They've got to get back to their kids and loved ones. You can't delay the tournament like this. So the director in me is screaming like, no, no, clocks are going, especially since this is the stream board. It always runs on a delay anyway. And especially because pairings need these game results to come in. So the director in me would say, just start his clock. I appreciate as a sportsman what Matthew Tunnicliffe is doing. Gentleman move for sure. Absolutely no reason to stop the clock. You don't have to. But the director in me is like, oh my God, please restart it. Please restart it. Now everybody's going to be delayed because Matthew had to go use the bathroom.
You're also playing against one of the fastest players in the world, so it's also just like, do you not think he could finish the game in 2 minutes? Obviously, like I'm not accusing Matthew Tunnicliffe of doing anything unbecoming, but once again, it's probably not appropriate to stop the clock here since all games are running at the same time. They are on a set 1 hour per game schedule. Maybe there was some other emergency. It could be something else, which would yeah, merit stopping the clock. But this is a very interesting position now. We're staring into very very partial knowledge of what's to come. The scores now after Eradicate, which I assume is what was just played, 336 to 330 in Matthew Tunnicliffe's favor, and there's going to be yeah, 11 in the bag after this play. And what's going to be interesting to see is if Matthew O'Connor manages to draw a key vowel here and maybe even a Q. The Q with that U might come in handy. It might still be a problem to draw the Q. Maybe, yeah, there are no I's left for QI in the top left corner. There's a lot left to see in this game. So I guess on one hand, I am glad that Matthew O'Connor is going to have an appropriate amount of time to deal with this position. On the other hand, I would have started the clock.
All right, so Matthew O'Connor has returned. We'll get those clocks going again. Finally, the director in me is satisfied. You hate to go to the bathroom and come back and see your opponent drop a bingo on you and take the lead for the first time all game. But alas, that's what's happened. And Josh is right. The Q is going to be huge. There's the double cheese spot next to Eradicate above Uric right now. The E for Eradicate is huge, and Matthew just drew it too. So that's a big tile and a big swing. Dentu, the rack for Matthew Tunnicliffe, or Matthew O'Connor.
And the Q.
And the Q on Matthew Tunnicliffe's rack. As long as the double cheese spot is taken away, I think this is game O'Connor. Let's get the pool updated now that O'Connor's actually drawn his tiles. There are 15 unseen, and look at the unseen pool. Unseen to Matthew O'Connor. BDEFGHKNOQRTVVY. Like, wow, you can sit there and do nothing and probably win this game.
Yeah, okay. This is this is troublesome. Okay, so there's 8 in the bag. It's Matthew O'Connor's turn. I do not think that it is right to block the QI spot, by the way. It's not that big of a threat. I think you want to play 5 tiles or 6 tiles here if you can, maybe underneath HOT, just to leave as few tiles as possible in the bag. Maybe try to keep your E for Eradicate. I don't know. This is a complicated position. We see the two commentators disagreeing, but yeah, this is not surface level. There's so much to work out in this position.
I think I've already played DI and DI right there. If I draw the Q, I've got the U and the bailouts, Queen and Eradicate, or a number of other options. I want to take away every vowel from my opponent and make them suffer as much as possible. The only thing I'm really concerned about is if a 5 letter word is playable beneath hot for 50, something blank O blank blank Y, horny or something in that vein, that would be bad. But I don't know that I'm looking to obstruct. Yeah, QI can come down for 11, but I'm not letting it come down for 22 instead.
I mean, it's interesting. Like I said, I mean, Matthew O'Connor has the AE combo and the U. So if he does draw the Q right now, he has very good options with it, such as Quare through the blank R of Radicate. So there is something to be said about just keeping the letters you need to defend against the Q. But you're behind by 6. The Q might still become a factor later when you no longer have the option to play Quare. There are some threats through the D and Eradicate as well, like Voddy, Voddy. And it's not very likely that Matthew Tunnicliffe will have drawn a 5 letter word underneath the OT of hot because there are only 2 unseen vowels with a Y as well. So the likelihood that something like honey comes down underneath is pretty low. I still think I would consider mostly trying to play 5 letters here underneath OT, but I don't know if there's a great way to do that and keep a U and an E.
I mean, there's a ton of different long options if you're looking to play long. Okay, quick question for you, Josh. In Matt's position right now, Matthew O'Connor's position, looking at this pool, looking at your 6 point deficit, what percent do you think he is to win this game?
I think he's around 70 to 80%, maybe 80,
Yeah.
82% to win the game. I'm actually seeing the option of Adnate, ADNATE, overlapping the RAD. That might be an interesting choice to keep the U for the Q, but I don't know what I would do here.
No, you've got to keep vowels. Okay, if you draw a vowel next turn, you were going to win this game anyway. If Matthew Tunnicliffe doesn't have any vowels or only has one, you're going to win this game. So you have to assume and prepare for the worst case scenario, which is you're drawing entirely consonants for the rest of this game. Otherwise, you're going to win anyway. You need to keep your vowels, in my opinion, here, no matter what. I think we're playing consonants. I think we're playing obstruction, and I think we're playing patience. I don't want to draw the B, the K, the G, the V's, the Y. This is a very hard turn, and he's going to play off the U and play Daunt and just try to score some points. Okay.
I like this play. I like this play. Even if he draws the Q, he does have the spot for it, but it's going to come down instantly. Matthew O'Connor now is up by 1. No, it's a tie game now, right? Oh my goodness.
Tie game, but advantage huge O'Connor right now, given it's his
Oh, he
turn.
got the
He's got the
E.
vowel. Oh, okay. That is a huge draw for Tunnicliffe. There's one vowel left in the bag. I'm going to go get it. That's what he said, and that's what he got. But Matthew O'Connor still has big eradicate plays available. BYKE and eradicate is 37. I fail to see like good paths to victory here for Tunnicliffe, but maybe I don't know. Can
It's
he
the
win
V.
after Bike?
The V is so bad though. You have to I think you really want to play the V here if you're Matthew O'Connor. There's 2 in the bag from Matthew O'Connor's perspective. He's getting low on time too. I wonder if those 3 minutes he would be down to almost no time at all right now if his clock had been started, or maybe even he would be overtime. I wonder if this is going to be the game. This is such a tough position. I really want to play my V off though if I can.
Yeah, I mean, BEVY and eradicate is a play you can't make. You can't throw the Y out in that triple line. That's how you lose in this situation. Quackle has BYKE 100% to win, but not if you play it with eradicate. It wants it played over next to Sporan for 34, making AB and ONY. That, according to Quackle's championship player, is the only play here that is 100% to win. And I guess that gives you enough possible plays with your V, or maybe Quackle's not entirely right on its analysis here.
I very, very highly doubt that that the analysis is correct. Although we do potentially have a stronger engine that somebody else could be using in the chat to determine this position here. Probably not going to happen. That'd be really cool. But this is, yeah, BYKE is a very strong play. I don't see it losing very often at all. So yeah, with 2 minutes on the clock, he spots it, putting him up by big. But what's unseen but the F and the N? How is Matthew O'Connor going to get rid of both the F and the V next turn?
Wow, the answer I think is he's not. And according to Quackle, Matthew Tunnicliffe has won the game if he plays it right.
Like I said, this is crazy stuff. Is Hoved good with biked? Is that a play?
Hoved and biked, or VERD and biked, are the two winning plays per the engine.
Wow. Yeah. This is the strength
And
of
Hoved
going
is
out
so
before
easy.
your opponent. Because this saves
This is why you don't
GRR.
play Daunt. This is why you don't play Daunt, I feel. Like, you end up getting caught with BKVW, all the crap, the FVBK combination. Don't go digging into a bag full of landmines and garbage. Keep your gems, even though they only score one. I think Matthew O'Connor has made like 9 mistakes this game, and finally he's been punished for them. I think Matthew Tunnicliffe has played a wonderful game, despite some clunk and ELOE at the beginning of the game. Those were interesting and maybe non-standard decisions, but wow, props to Matthew Tunnicliffe for continuing to fight. He's got to find one more winning sequence, but Hoved holding GR is so obvious.
Wow. Yeah, he's already spotted it. He might not be 100% sure that it's a valid play or that it's a winning play, but he has almost 5 minutes to work this out. This should be enough time. What an insane game. He's seen it again. He's considering it again. If he spots the GRR spot with Jag, I think that'll be enough to tell him this has to be right. Wow. Oh my
Yeah, you've got
goodness.
to find GRR to go out after this in order to win. Matthew O'Connor's best play in that end game would be FANK down to the K, and the only winning out for Tunnicliffe would be GRR and Jag. So he's got to spot that. But if he's able to make this sequence, should be winning for him. Here it comes. Wow. Wow. So Matthew Tunnicliffe making Canada proud at the Canadian Scrabble Classic. Assuming he finds the correct out here, he's going to hang on to win this game narrowly. This one was bonkers.
Definitely on hold, I think. Also, yeah, just going back to that play of Daunt, I find it hard to argue with Matt Canick on this one. I think Matt is maybe the best slow playing player in North America. You're so good at complicating positions, keeping things really, really difficult for your opponent. I don't know. I still would have played Daunt. I think that E draw after QI was so important for Matt Tunnicliffe. He could have drawn any consonant and he would have been dead here. Crazy
But
stuff.
what did I say? Look, if the only way Matthew O'Connor is losing this game is if Matthew Tunnicliffe gets the vowels. That's what happened. You can't set yourself up to lose in an opportunity where your opponent gets the vowels. You can't play 5 tiles, draw the consonants, let your opponent draw the vowels, and win the game. I think it was a huge mistake to play Daunt there, and it's going to cost him the game.
But what do you mean? I don't really understand. I don't want to argue. What do you mean? I mean, playing 5 tiles means you're drawing the vowels more often, right? So that your opponent can't draw them.
Yeah, but if you don't draw the vowels, you lose. You're in a commanding position. Just stay where you are. Anyway, we can rehash this more when I'm not streaming and trying to entertain 156 simultaneous viewers. Definitely something to look at. Matthew O'Connor is going to challenge. I think he has to do that in this situation. He knows he's dead otherwise. So check. Make sure the hook is good. That's going to be a nickel thrown towards Matthew Tunnicliffe, 5 extra points. And Matthew, again, had to know he's dead. FANK is not going to outrun GRR. Man, what a game. So Fank going to come down, and Matthew Tunnicliffe going to go out with his GRR play. That's what it looks like. Fank will put Matthew O'Connor ahead 417 to 402, but GRR for 15, holding on to or catching 10 points off Matthew O'Connor's rack. That's it for this one. Unless maybe he's thinking about slow playing this. Is there a V
No,
stick just to be mean?
I just think he might not have ever spotted GRR. Like it would have come down already, right? I think he's maybe gonna play Frog here. I don't know. Is he trolling us? It's such a hard play to spot. It could be he played Hove just hoping that it was good enough, not knowing for sure. And now that he's gotten the 5 points, he knows he's in a winning position. But maybe he still doesn't see it. Okay. Woo!
Just go back
Never
and
mind.
recount the entire game, maybe add some suspense to the stream. Wow. All right. So GRR is 15 plus 10 for Matthew O'Connor makes this 427 Tunnicliffe, 417 O'Connor. What a wild one. There's a game that back and forwards, Tunnicliffe was looking dead at certain points, especially after that Q draw, and yet he fought back, stayed calm, didn't tilt after like 8 different tilt inducing draws and situations, and comes up with a huge victory. Tunnicliffe now will proceed to 10-2. Matthew O'Connor down to 8-4.